Mr. Armond, thank you so much for joining this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is mine. I'm super excited to learn more about your journey as well into business world. You had a lots of ups and downs, and we love to cover that on the show and learn more
Yes.
about like how you dealt with them kind of a downside of it, like when the things doesn't go as you expected. So
Right.
walk me through like when did you decided to be your own boss? You start your own business.
Well, mine is kind of unique. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents adopted me when I was very very young, and I was watching my grandfather. He had two places. We had the place that we lived in, but it had like an extra room. He rented that out, and then we had a duplex next door that he rented out to my cousins upstairs, my aunt and uncle upstairs with my cousins, and then I had another cousin that stayed downstairs. So that's pretty much was the gist of it. But this was, way back in the 70s. And so, even though it was just a little bit of money, it was good enough for him to,
Mm.
with the money that he was getting, it was enough for him to live kind of comfortable. And just by me seeing that over the years, I was like, man, I want to be like granddad. And then as I started getting older, I was like, man, why stop it? Because he started me playing Monopoly early. I was like, why stop at just two? I want to, the whole game of the Monopoly board. You buy all the properties. You just know, just settle with the two places. Our places
Yeah.
wasn't Boardwalk and Park Place. It was like the first two, the cheap ones when you first go through, like what is it, Mediterranean and I forget the other one, but those first two when you first pass go, that would be equivalent to the places that we had. But it was very inspirational. So I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be a real estate investor.
That's nice. So you learned from like your granddad, and then he
Mhm.
inspired you to like starting your own business. So what
Yes.
age like you started buying your first property, you say? How old are you?
Well, I mean, quite naturally, I probably should have started really, really young. But as I started getting older, I started seeing things that were going wrong. Like, say, for example, my granddad was to cuss people out, they tend not to pay. When he talked to people kind of nicely, they tend to pay. And we had a couple run-ins with different contractors or whatnot, where the people come in, give you a price, and they tear everything up, and you give them so much of the money, and you never see them again. So I was kind of gun shy, on lack of a better word, a little gun shy on buying my first place. So I didn't buy my first property until I was like maybe 27, 28.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's when I got my first property.
So yeah, like when you're starting out as a real estate investor, like you always gets like a tough moment, isn't it? Like getting the funds and everything ready, like you have to save up for the down payments. So what did you do for like saving up for the down payments and starting off? Like did you do any other businesses in the prior to that or like in a job?
Absolutely. I took the absolutely longest route that it would take to buy a property. And that's another thing too. Now that I'm a coach, I show people a faster way, extremely faster way. So my approach to becoming a real estate investor, for one, me, growing up, I was thinking I had to get all my credit right. So I had to get my credit together. And then, of course, I was thinking I had to save up some money. So I went to save up some money. Then I was thinking like, wow, I need to have this high income job. So I went to college and chose a tough career in order to put myself. I just think I had to have all these things in place first before I could start buying real estate. And so once I got all these different boxes checked, and over the time I was reading different courses and thinking I had to remember those courses back and forth before I can get started. So I took the longest route possible before I got started. But yeah, I had the job, I had my credit right, I had the money sitting to the side. So that's the route that I chose. So
Mm.
at 27, I had a significant amount of money saved up. Credit was A1, and I can recite the course backwards and forwards,
Yeah.
and then that's when I started.
So you know the first property you bought when you were 27 years old, did you start living in it or like you rent it out or like is for purely for investment? What did you do with the property?
My first property, I bought for me to live in it. I mean, I had a few issues, but it was for me to live in it. And then a few years later, I figured, I had to save up more money. My thing
Mm.
was I was going to try to save my way into it, which is really a fantasy. You would never save up that much money in order to buy a bunch of properties. One thing I usually tell people, the first step is to skill up. You need to learn the business, get the right skills. Then once you get the right skills, then you start up in the business. And the best way to skill up and to learn the business is to find a mentor, which I didn't have a mentor when I learned it. I just learned from a course,
Mm.
Carlton Sheets. And so I kind of learned from that course, and I just read it over and over again. But you need a mentor, somebody that you can kind of talk to, and that'll
Yeah.
be the fastest way to get you going.
Yeah, so you brought your first property, you're 27 years old, then you start
Mhm.
buying like a different properties like after a few years there. So how
Yes,
long did it take actually get to like a, where you say like I can quit my full-time jobs and this is something like going to be my full-time income? How long did
right,
it
right.
take?
So for me, it took the way I did it in three. It took me what I did it in 3 years. And the main thing was, again, I was just buying, quite a few properties. So I went, I started up. Eventually, I had like 40 doors. I had a 15 unit apartment building, four unit apartment building, a duplex, and I had houses all across the city of Toledo. So I had a pretty big business. And then, at that point, I said, forget the job. This is what we're going to do.
Hmm. So that time, like you have enough money coming in for like you to quit and then
Mhm.
focus on the full time. Like how was your business or like a what are your like a day to day like things like what were you actually doing like looking for a property or like a collecting your cash from the renters?
Right. In the ideal state, that's what it would be. Ideally, that's where I wanted it to be back then, because mine was the rise, the fall, and then the rise again. So at the ideal state, you get all these properties, especially, you get the apartment building, you got the 15 units where they're paying
Yeah.
income. At the 4 unit building, they're paying income, and they have all these houses. You got all this money coming in, right? But the way I was structured, it was just a lot of repair calls. So my day
Mm.
to day, I was like a firefighter. I had a cell phone on one side just designated for repairs. And if they couldn't hit that number, my girlfriend at the time, she had a cell phone designated just for like repairs. And you would think that, how often do you call your landlord for a repair? You're thinking maybe once every other month or something, every once in a
Yeah.
while. But if you take and multiply that times 40, and then people are not looking at the ideal scene like you are, they call their landlord every day or every other day, man, the phone would ring off the hook. I mean, and then every time it's ring, that's money coming out of your pocket. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty rough. So that's what my day to day would consist of. It would be some days I'll be looking at deals, but for the vast majority of it, I'll be coordinating, getting contractors out to do the different repair work, and
Mm.
it was pretty challenging to say the least.
So how long did you enjoy the process of like enough money coming in, and even though like there was a struggle like with
Mhm.
repairing and everything like that. So how long like you had like a smooth transition, like the business was going well, the passive income is coming in, and
Right.
then all of a sudden you lost it all. Like how long was the phrase like how long you had like a good moment? You say.
Right, right. Not a long time at all. So like when I was first scaling up with just a few properties, so it was kind of easier to deal with because it's just a few properties. No matter what would happen, I could pretty much handle it with the cash flow from the properties. And then plus at the time I was still working at that time. So that was pretty cool. But once I scaled up to that maximum of 40, and then I took away the job. So my whole thing was I always had a lot of money sitting to the side to be able to handle whatever.
Yeah.
So I had 200,000-300,000 just sitting to the side, but just over the months, you see that you tracking things. I've evolved from school. I'm putting a little education, but I had the different graphs going and whatnot, and you see this downward spiral every month. You're spending out way more money than what you're coming in, and that's where you see that things are not quite right. So that's what happened back in 2007, 2008. It just went definitely crashed. Pretty much a lot of people felt that effect all the way around the country, and I kind of got caught up in that as well. And a lot of people blame it on the economy, right? So they blame it on the economy, but when in actuality, it's whether things go good or bad, you got to take full responsibility. I'm
Yeah.
not just saying that out as a cliche or whatever, but really, if I would have had the skills that I have now, I wouldn't have went through that downturn. And a lot of people, if they knew the information that I have now, they wouldn't have went through the downturn
Mm.
either. It's just a different way of doing real estate. And when everything went all the way down, that's when I found a mentor to show me the correct way to do real estate. And now it's like recession proof. And that's my mission in life, is to show as many people as possible how to buy properties correctly and structure their business correctly, so they won't have the what happened to them, what happened to me.
Yeah. So when you actually lost everything kind of thing, you gone through the phase, what do you think like what went wrong? Like obviously you learned it, like you know
Mhm.
saying like in the way you buy property right now is a recession proof, and even though you teach other students right now. So what you used to do before and what you do right now, like compared to like how is a recession proof, and what went wrong like when you nearly lost everything?
Yes. Well, one is that one part of it is what they have changed some of the rules now with the banking. I was
Okay.
utilizing bank financing, which is nothing wrong with that. I know some people preach not using bank financing, but I'm a I'm a fan of using bank financing. But watching your leverage, like don't over leverage yourself. So if you're using bank financing, use just a little debt on the property. So say for example, the property's worth 70, 80,000, have a loan on it for like maybe 20,000, 25,000. So you have just a little bit of debt. So you got yourself, in case something was to go wrong, you got multiple different exit strategies, right? The exit strategy, got multiple different exit strategies. Back and before, man, I owed pretty much what the properties were worth, and some of the situations I was negative cash flow, and I negative cash flow maybe on one or two, but then I positive cash flow on this other one, and it just come out in the wash, but no, that's not the right way to do it. So structuring the deal, so one, the bank financing with the debt, structuring the deals correctly. So
Mm.
now I do very little, which I just did a rental agreement today. So I got one traditional rental agreement. Mostly I do seller financing. So seller financing is really the saving grace now. It's recession proof.
Right.
So so that's another thing as far as structuring the deals correctly, and that's the main two, between the debt and the structuring the deals correctly. I mean, that's the main changes.
Okay. So let's say if someone is wants to invest in property market right now, and they probably have this skeptical, like they
Mhm.
probably gonna lose the amount, or probably the crash gonna happen, or sometime like is the case like they don't have enough saved up cash,
Right.
right, to invest
Right.
it. So how they can start investing in the business like without a lot of cash, or like being like without any experience, like what would be like your advice on them?
My advice, if you're looking to get started in real estate investing, hire you a mentor. Because you can buy courses online. I went through a couple of different programs. One in particular was a young lady. I was in the mentorship program, but she
Mm.
started her business off by reading a book. That's the exception, not the rule. So you'll see people that buy a course and buy a book and whatnot, and read the information and be able to start a successful business, because they may feel as though that they're real smart. As you can see, I got quite a few degrees on this wall. I got a bunch of degrees on that wall. So you might feel as though, which is me, my ego goes with those degrees. You feel as though you have all these degrees and whatnot, and you're really, really smart. You can read this book and you can do it. Man, find you a mentor, somebody that's doing it, that's doing something, that doing it the way that you want to, going in the direction that you want to go, and just kind of hire them and just kind of pattern yourself after them, and you'll have a much more sure success route. Like if you read a bunch of information, obviously, if you gather all this information, that's a sure way of success. But the fastest way to success is to hire a mentor and just kind of follow along with what they're doing. And that was a part of my downfall as well. I did not have a mentor. I bought a
Mm.
course, a couple of different courses, and felt as though I was smart enough just to read the book and duplicate. But when I run into a problem, I didn't have nobody to talk to. So that was a part of my downfall before. So now the first thing is to hire a mentor. That's what I would recommend.
That's great. So let's say about if you were to start over again, let's say right now, like you lost and
Mhm.
everything, like with
Right.
this crash, how would you get started with the property, like without like having like a great income or like enough saved up? Is it still possible to start with the property?
Oh, absolutely. You can start off with no money at all. I mean, that's what no money, no credit. I mean, that's my story. I started off, my credit was horrible when I lost everything, because I had, it wasn't just like I cashed the keys. I gave the
Mm.
properties back to the bank. I mean, I did give them back, but still, those foreclosures was on my record. So I had all these foreclosures on my record, so I couldn't even get toilet paper on credit. So credit wasn't an option. And then as far as the money part, I used all my money just to try to hang in there a little bit. So I didn't have any money, right? So I was working a job, and that's pretty much how I started, with no money, no credit, and I built everything back up. I've done millions of dollars in real estate, and currently I make over six figures passively with real estate investing. So it's definitely, you can start with no money, no credit. It's just a few myths that's out there, that you need the money, you need the credit, but more importantly, you need the skill. If you got
Mm.
the skill, that'll bring in the money. So like for example, I bought 5 properties a few months ago. So the 5 properties, for one, having the skill, and I just had the right opportunity. The properties were $10,000 a piece, 5 of them. So people are like, wow, you got 5 properties for $10,000 a piece. And so it's a few different things I can do. For one, people might say, well, I don't, 5 times 10, that's 50,000. People are like, I
Yeah.
don't have a 50,000. Even if I was to find them that cheap, I couldn't buy them. So this is what I did. I had those 5 properties, and I brought in a lender, and he loaned me 100 grand, and I need 50, for the properties, and then I ended up putting a little less than 50,000 in my pocket. So that's just one way that you can start buying properties without using none of your own money, none of your own credit. So, and
Yeah.
in the lender, it was not like a traditional lender, like a bank. It was like
Mm.
a friend of mine that funded the deals. So that's one way that you can use to.
Yeah, just like finding an investor. So we do in UK as well. There is a lot of investor. They don't have the time to like look for them property, cheap properties. Like where I live, there's like a property is like really, really cheap in Burnley compared to London. So London is like a
Okay.
10 times expensive. So two-bedroom house will be like 500,000 in London. But in here, like where I live, is like about 70, 80 grand for two-bedroom houses. So a lot of
Nice.
them don't have the time and the resources to come here and like look for the properties. So they like hire someone like a deal source. They give like a commission on there. Sometimes like they make a investment and they split the whole profit.
Right.
It depends like however they want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there is a different way, like you can find a way. Like I wanted to ask you that, like so our audience can understand so better way. So do you think is the right time for like buying a properties, or like someone needs to wait for like a next year or two before the market crash or things like that?
No, I mean, real estate is the time to buy real estate is now. The other best time to buy real estate was probably 2 or 3 years ago, whenever you just thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time to buy is now. I mean, you should buy as many as you can, because it's the value is going up, and I think more and more people are seeing the opportunities, and the value is just going to continue to go up.
Mm.
But you got to buy them correctly, right? So it's still the first step, I would say, is for a person to learn the business first. Learn the
Yeah.
business, not just dive in and start buying, but learn the business. I mean, it'll pay you. You take the time to learn the business, and that's the best way to go.
Yeah, all right, Armand. Thank you so much for your advice and sharing your knowledge in today's show. So we're nearly coming to end of this podcast. So before we leave, if anyone wants to learn more about yourself, your business, where's the best place to find you?
Best place to find me is, you can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, Armond Wright, on Facebook, and on the Instagram is Armond Wright, the number 1. And if you just want to reach me directly, you can always call me. I answer my own phone. My number is 567-277-1235. Again, the number is 567-277-1235.
All right, thank you so much for those information, and I wish you best of luck with your business, your personal life, and thank you so much for coming to this show today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity.
You're most welcome. So that's a wrap,
Yes.
guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode with Mr. Armond. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If anyone wants to learn more about investing in real estate, you can reach out to him. You can find him on social media platforms, or you can give him a call on the number he just spelled out. I'm probably going to leave a link on the description as well. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.